Hello, this is Helen Lindley and welcome to In the Roud.
Greetings and salutations, dear listeners. This is In the Roud, a folk song podcast, and I am your host, Matt Quinn. Join me as we travel through the world of traditional folk song, one song per episode, in the order they appear in the Roud Index. Each episode normally features two guests, one providing an historical look at the song, while the other will be a singer from the folk music scene to talk about their own version of the song. This podcast is proud to be partly sponsored by the Traditional Song Forum. Meeting regularly both in person and online, the TSF provides a place for a variety of topics related to folk song, song collectors, singers and many other aspects of folk song research to be presented and discussed. It's free to join and most meetings are free to attend. So discover more about the TSF at www.tradsong.org. That's tradsong.org. But let's get going. This week's song is Roud 66, that's Child Ballad 109, a song called Tom Potts. We're back with another child ballad that's pretty unknown, I'd say. Apart from today's guest, literally nothing that we could find on the folk revival or the modern recordings side of things. And as you'll find, there's not actually that much to talk about either in terms of the history either. But there's always things to discuss, and for this one, I bring back, as last week, my regular unknown child ballad enthusiast, Helen Lindley. Hello and welcome back yet again to In the Roud, Helen Lindley. Hello.
Hi Matt, and how are you? Are you as well as the weather is looking?
Well, it's actually quite grey outside my window now.
Oh, I've got sunshine now.
So, in answer to your question, yes. I'm feeling a bit grey and middling, so that's fine. So, yeah, I'm doing okay. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm really glad actually we're doing this one this week because I'd already done the work on this about 2 years ago. So it's been an easy week for me.
There you go. Nice. Yeah, it's an interesting one this because there's almost nothing. It's a bit like last week, but there was a bit more to say about last week's, wasn't there?
Yes.
William Douglas Dale. But yeah, Tom Potts, even less to say. So we'll see how we go. But a shorter episode gives people a break from the longer ones, So nice variety in length. So Tom Potts then, Roud 66, Child 109. It's a jump in child number. We've missed out, or Steve Roud rather missed out 8 child numbers because last week's Roud 65 was Child 101. So if anyone cares, we spoke about Child 102 last week, which was the Willie and Earl Richards' daughter, the birth of Robin Hood. Child 103 is Rose the Red and White Lily, a song I don't know anything about at all, although it mentions a character called Brown Robin. That's helpful, isn't it?
It is indeed.
And then Child 104 is very famous one, Prince Heathen, very made famous by a certain M. Carthy, who did his own magnificent long version, which is interesting how long it is, considering that there are 2 versions in Child. One is 4 verses and one is 14 verses, yet the Martin Carthy recording lasts about 10 minutes. So he obviously did some major work to that one. Child 105 is The Bailiff's Daughter of Islington. I'm quite familiar with that one. 106, The Famous Flower of Serving Men, another Martin Carthy epic. And he really did a number on that one because there's one version in Child which has 28 verses and his version lasts about 10 minutes. Child 107 is a song called Will, Stuart and John. Never heard of it. I'm assuming it hasn't come up in my spreadsheet of the first 300 Roud numbers, so it must be a lot further on. And then Child 108 with one version, a song called Christopher White. Never heard of it, but it's not in the Roud Index at this moment. It is in the Roud Index, but at the moment in the Roud Index the podcast's up to, it's not there. So then we come to Child 109, Tom Potts. Yeah, so give us, as usual, start us off with the plot synopsis. Are you going
Oh,
to do? Are you
so
going to do a plot synopsis of the very long version or the version that you've cut down?
the plot synopsis is exactly the same.
Oh, all right.
Basically, basically, the rich chap, Earl's daughter, loves somebody who is a serving man, and he has a suitor for her. She doesn't want the suitor, and she is told she's going to have to marry him, and she doesn't want to. So she manages to, with the aid of one of her servants, gets a message to her lover. He challenges the suitor that her father prefers, and then they have a contest, and he wins her, for want of a better phrase, and they go and live happily ever after.
And all in a mere 96 verses.
Oh, or 104 if you take the Child B version.
Oh, what a long, even longer. Blimey.
Yeah,
There we go,
I mean,
104.
the synopsis is the same for all versions, but it's the trials that they go through that depend on the length of the song. And yes, my version is much, much shorter, but that's thanks to Carl Sinfield at Sing Yonder because he asked me to create a version that would fit in the book, which gave me a maximum allowance of 16 verses.
Yes, as I said last week, I've done that for a Robin Hood
Yeah.
ballad, which will turn up in the next season of the podcast. And he said 16 verses or 19 if they're two-line verses.
Yes.
You had a much harder job than I did. I had to get about 39 verses down to 16 or 19.
I did it the first time and then he sent it back to me saying it's too long.
Wow.
So I had to cut it again and then he did the same. And eventually it was three versions over probably about, I would say, about 6 months before we got to the version that actually would fit on an A5 page in a book.
Wonderful.
So yeah, but the essence of them all is the same. It's and it's another one of these stories that, as I keep saying, it's always the ones where the woman refuses to comply with her father's wishes and marry the chap he wants that seems to they're the ones that seem to have fell out of love with the Victorian listener. So it that I think that's why they're sort of becoming more popular now is because obviously we don't stand for that nonsense anymore where she has to do as she's told.
Indeed, indeed. And so, yeah, how far back can we trace this? I mean, I know there aren't,
17th
well,
century.
I'm about to say there aren't many, but there aren't many versions, but 17th century, is
Yeah,
that,
17th century. We've got I think
oh,
we've
is
got
that, is
16
that, is that the longest one, the version B in Child?
that's got 1677 and I think 1657 is the C version.
Oh,
Um
so it is. So version C in Child came from a white letter sheet in 5 columns,
yeah.
published May 29th, 1657, as part of the King's pamphlets in the British Museum. So yeah, there we go, 1657. That's extremely good going. It's not quite the oldest we've had. I think I was on the Patreon. Vic Gammon did the history of Old Daddy Fox or Old Father Fox, which will come up on the podcast in a few years' time. But Vic found a sort of Middle English version of that from about 1500. So
Yeah.
there are some songs date back, but 17th century is pretty good going. Normally it's 18th century, so 17th is a nice change.
Yes. Yeah, it's so yeah, it has been around, but and it goes under different titles.
Oh
We've
yeah,
got Thomas of Pot.
all 4 versions in Child have like different titles, don't they?
Yeah, Thomas of Pot is version A. The Lover's Quarrel or Cupid's Triumph for version B,
Oh yeah,
and Two Constant Lovers in Scotland for version C.
there we go.
And I think there's one of them. There might even be the history of Tommy Potts.
Oh, that's when we
But
come to the mentions in the broadside index, which
yeah,
are not really. I mean, it's worth mentioning them, but you can't delve into them because there's nothing there.
yeah,
But we'll come to
that's
that in a
right.
minute. Yeah, so basically we've got version A in Child is from the Thomas Percy Folio manuscript in the 17th century, but I'm not entirely certain of if we have an exact date on the Folio manuscript.
No, there doesn't seem to be. We're not that
No.
well, not that I've discovered. I mean, there might be on some document, but for the one thing, it was I think 2023 when I probably did this research
Oh
originally.
yeah, yeah.
And lots happened since then. But also there's that it's not going to be it's not going to be much difference in date, obviously.
No, no.
So there comes a point when you think, well, for the sake of 10 years here and there, we probably don't need to look.
Yes, that's right. Because basically the Folio manuscript is 17th century, and then that 1677 um version B, and then 1657 Two Constant Lovers in Scotland, but then it's reprinted in Ritson's Ancient Songs in 1790. And
Yes, I mean
that's
there is a reference that Percy mentions is a romance ballad from 1200, which is Guillaume de Palerne, which was translated in the 14th century as William and the Werewolf. But there is,
well, that sounds good already. William
yeah,
and the
it does,
Werewolf.
doesn't it? It probably sounds better than Tom Potts does. But yeah, there's it's like a lot of these things, though, isn't it? There's always a way that, oh, especially the Victorians were big ones on, let's see if we can fake a history, more of a history for this. So we don't really know. To be honest, most of the references seem to be 17th century, so I'm happy to stick with 17th century.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because then there are, basically the folk song index as part of the Roud index has 9 entries. Um, and But two of those are also in the broadside index has 2 entries, but those 2 entries are also part of the folk song index. So it's a bit confusing because that's the Roud index. It's confusing. But nevertheless, those two broadside index entries are references only. It's a title turns up in a catalogue of chapbooks and broadsides in the Harvard College Library of chapbooks printed in London. And we're just given it's a catalogue, so it's a list of song titles, and one of them is The History of Tom Potts or The Lover's Quarrel.
Yeah.
And so, we've got that, and I think another one from the same batch, I think. Oh no, from a different catalogue, but it's along the same lines. It's from a different printer. It's a catalogue from a different printer, but it's the same thing. The history of Tommy Potts or the Lover's Quarrel in a catalogue of chapbooks. So we haven't got the chapbooks or the any text, but we have a title, so it's been linked to it. And that's really all the Roud index can give us is child and those 2 entries, and obviously the child and obviously the Percy Folio manuscript, and That's it.
Yeah. I mean, interestingly, with this one, the characters within, I think it's a bit like last week. Some of the names within are of families that existed.
Yeah,
So we've got the Earl of Arundel, obviously. That's a title that is that they've existed since the 12th century at least. And there's in what I did find when I was doing my original research is that Arundel Castle is in Sussex.
it is. I know it
And
very well.
yes, I thought you would.
It's one where whenever my dad and I drive past it, because of the way it looks, one of us has to mutter, "It's only a model," because
Yeah,
it does just look like a model, and so we have to do that Monty Python and the Holy Grail reference.
yeah.
It's only a model.
Um, there are a couple of other locations mentioned, which is Guildford Green and Strawberry Castle. Now
Strawberry
Strawberry
again.
Hill near Twick,
That strawberry
yeah,
turns up a lot in child ballads.
yeah, and also, well, Strawberry Hill's in Twickenham, and obviously Guildford is in the south of England, so it does have that feel that perhaps a ballad has been set in that location
Right.
because the Earls of Arundel, I say it mentions them. So and there were a few characters, a few. I think there was like the Howard Duke of Norfolk and those sorts of connections, all with that area. And then there's the Phoenix or Phoenix, as it's sometimes spelt in different
Oh
versions of the
yes, yeah.
song. Um, and they were from Northumberland, and so these these character names existed. That is not to say this song was about those characters, but as we know, that's what often happened is, we will create a song because we know these names. There's these names in antiquity, so we can write a song and use those as the characters. And
Yeah.
that we seem to be encountering quite a bit in when we look at the child ballads in particular. Yeah, so I think it's quite nice that there is. You could, in theory, with in a fair wind, say, oh, it could be from round here, from around that particular area.
Sure.
But that's just because that's where the story, there's been a story set there for whatever reason.
Aye.
But the song itself is, a pretty standard,
If
ballad
rather long.
idea.
Yeah, if
If
rather
rather
long.
long. And that is obviously, I think that's the main reason it did not get sung, is there's a lot of repetition in it. And there's a lot of superfluous stuff. But I can imagine, some chap in the pub drinking ale in the inn one night and, would regale people with the 104 verse
Yeah,
version.
that would probably be me, I think.
Yeah, it probably would. And so, these different versions is very much, she is wealthy, he isn't, but he has a master who, he's obviously been very dutiful to his lord and master, because his master is the one that says, "I'll give you swords and armor and horses, and I'll fight with you," which is it it's one of those issues of probably wouldn't happen, but it sounds good in a song.
Yeah,
But I did have to cut a lot of those little areas out of, oh, somebody gave a letter and began to read and what they read, but you've already told you what's in the letter anyway, so we don't need to read it out loud again.
that's
And
right. So much of this is repetition, I guess.
it is, but I think that's I do wonder with the long ballads, given when they're from. And somebody would be paid in ale, of course, to sing some of these things. So if you've got a nice long song, it probably gives you an opportunity to have much ale bought you when you're singing it in the local ale house.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no evidence that that is the case, but I like to think that that would be a reason why you wouldn't sing a nice long ballad in your 17th century ale house. Someone will buy you beer all night till you get to the end.
That's right.
Um, but yeah, there's lots of toing and froing and a repetition of he said, she said, they said. And a lot of it is not necessarily, it doesn't advance the story. It probably would, if anybody wanted to put their mind to it, make a song that you might want to sing. But whether anybody would want to listen to the 104 or 96 verses is the jury's out.
Yeah. Well, one wonders whether it ever was sung. We've no idea, obviously, but the
Yeah.
versions we have are printed or from folio manuscript or from broadside or mentions on broadsides. We've no real evidence that this was ever actually sung. by anyone.
This is the issue actually, because it's the length of it does suggest it might have been a telling rather than a singing.
Yeah, and particularly as
Um,
we've got, as not only are there no tunes for it in Bronson, Bronson in fact left it out.
yes, he doesn't mention it at all,
It
and
doesn't even get its own section.
no, so it does read more like you might have, a poem. Um, it was a very popular thing to write these long poems. Even in
Yeah.
you're looking at even in the famous poets, as anybody who ever did GCSE or A level English literature will know, there are many poems of too long,
Oh
too
yeah,
many
yeah.
verses and too many words, and you think, is it ever going to end?
Indeed.
And that does strike me that it could possibly be the case here. It is also interesting that not some of these versions, I'd forgotten about it until just this very minute. But the reason that there is the C version is only 66 verses is because they are 7 line verses.
They're longer line verses. Yeah,
So
exactly.
you end up, but there is a bit of hey down, derry down in those. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
that's two of the lines in each verse, but you've
indeed.
still got they're not 4 line verses within that version.
So
So it is nearly as long as all the others.
fewer verses, but it'll take just as long to sing it, probably.
Yes, yeah.
But
Um,
I've just noticed that even Bronson actually, not there are no tunes either for the other child ballads that we've skipped over. 104 Prince Heathen, that's not even in Bronson. Um, Flower Serving Men is, but then you get 107 Will Stewart and John, that's not in Bronson at all, despite a very, very long version in Child. 108 Christopher White and 109 Tom Potts. Yeah, there's not
yeah.
none of them are even mentioned in Bronson either. So we're obviously at a moment in the child ballads when just when Child was including songs that barely anyone ever got around to singing.
Yeah, I'll say there is, looking at the periods where some of these are from, um, we are still in the era of very much spoken word.
Yeah,
Um, we're talking that, Shakespeare's not been dead that long.
this is true. This is true.
So, long spoken word was a form of entertainment. So there's no reason to assume it was. Just because it's in child doesn't make it a song.
This is
Um,
quite
but
true.
but having shortened it, you can make it into a quite nice little song, which is obviously what we did. And you can tie it in with characters, which always makes it a nice, adds a bit of an interesting element to a story. Um, but I suppose it's like when you watch a soap opera, isn't it? If you're that way inclined to soap operas, there are some made up characters, but they're sort of put in a location that is real.
Yeah,
And I think that's what often happens in ballads.
I was interested
So
that there's not quite. Yeah, just looking to see the similarities in openings between the three versions in Child, and the first two are quite similar. The third one's a bit different. We'll just see whether three versions in Child means three radically different plots, or at least sets of words. But you got version A. The first verse is all you lords of Scotland fair, and ladies also bright of blee. There is a lady amongst them all, of her report you shall hear of me. And then you got version B starts basically the same thing. Of of all the lords in Scotland fair and ladies that so bright of blee, there is a noble lady among them all, in report of her you shall hear by me. And then version 3, version C. In Scotland there are ladies fair, there's ladies of honour and high degree, hey down, down a derry down, down derry. But one excels above all the rest, and the Earl of Arundel's daughter is she, with hey down, lang, derry down, derry.
and that's the version that begins my version, but without the
Ah,
Derry Downs.
without
Because
the
I got that in Scotland. There are ladies' fair, those of honour and high degree, but one excels above all the rest. Earl of Arundel's only child is she.
There we go.
So that's where sort of I started because I had to start somewhere, and it was such a labour to get this version into a normal length song. Yeah. So finding the version that would enable the story to follow. And I think on this one, at the time when I was doing it, I went to the end first and worked back.
Right. Okay.
Because there was so much to put in. I'd got my first verse and I knew where it was going to end. So I made sure I'd got those two verses in place and then sort of patched it between, which is something I have John Bowden to thank for because I happened to be doing something with him when I just before I was doing this. And it was, yeah, start at the end and work back. It sometimes makes it easier, which it does. It gives you an end point.
Yeah.
So you know where you're ending up and you know where you're starting, and you've got 100 and whatever verses in the middle that you need to condense down, and it really makes it so much easier to take a start and an end point and condense within rather than condense as you go along thinking, oh, exactly where am I ending.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to make some drastic decisions
I'm
on
sure you
what
do. Yes.
but whether I would do a longer version if I was doing it for me,
Yeah.
perhaps. But once I've done that version, it's like, no, that is the version I'm happy with now. So I don't really want to go back to it.
Have you cut out any mention of Jesus Christ? Because
Yes,
I've just noticed that he's in version B. Not the character of Jesus isn't in version B, but he's mentioned. And
yes,
I suddenly thought, how many other folk songs or like child ballads actually mention or refer to Jesus Christ that aren't religious songs?
yes,
Because in
yeah. I
version B we have, I mean it's a long version obviously, but I've noticed at least verse 32. If it be his fortune the better to win, as I pray to Christ in Trinity, I'll make him the flower of all his kin, for the young Lord Arundel he shall be. And then later on in verse 41 says, I thank you, master, said Tommy Potts, that proffer is too good for me, but if Jesus Christ stand on my side, my own hands shall set her free. God be with you, master, said Tommy Potts. Now Jesus Christ you save and see. If ever I come alive again, stayed the wedding it shall be.
yeah.
It's not off. You don't come across unless it's a deliberately religious song or a Christmas carol or whatever. In the folk sphere, you don't actually get much in the way of reference to Jesus.
No, no. There might be I prayed to God or whatever, but
Yeah, but not
less about.
JC himself. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I did leave that out. Mainly, I mean, the big reason is we've got to simplify it a
Yeah, yeah,
lot. And I said,
sure.
I've got a folder full of the versions that I had to go through to get the final version that would fit in the book. And because at one point I think I'd got it to, because as I always do, as I've said in other episodes, I work in either 8 line verses, or if they're 4 line verses, they're doubled up. The lines are doubled up.
Yeah.
So in effect, you get two of the child verses into one
So
verse.
yeah, effectively you've got an 8 verse version now, but
Yes,
they're 8 lines each. So yeah,
yeah,
eight
yeah,
verses or 16 depending on what tune you
yes.
want to
How you're
sing.
working it, and the thing with that, I say that there's quite a lot to condense, um, and I think at one point I'd got it down to about 30. And then I thought, right, I need to cut a lot more. So I cut some more. And I think I sent it to Carl when I'd got about 24, possibly. And it's like, nope, still too long.
No, too long.
It's like, what else can I cut? So it was actually the ending, I think I ended up really cutting down. Because there's a lot of toing and froing on who gets a dagger at who, and who sprang up and who did what, and what all the ladies in waiting were doing. And so I really did. But the one thing I kept, and I'm just going to check because I can't remember which version it was. Yes, I think it's in, that's it, it's verse 104 in version B, I think. One thing that stood out for me on this was the fact there was a version where she turns around and says that women should marry for love, not for uh, money or gold or goods.
Oh, yeah.
Which I decided that was staying in. That was going to be the end point
Right.
of the song. Um, but
Yeah, I sing a song that's a totally different song, and it's a folk song as opposed to a child ballad, if you want to make that distinction. And I have no idea what round number it is. I don't really care, but it's called "The Poor Weaver's Daughter." It's on one of my solo albums, but it's the theme of like it's got a theme of like child or child looking after a parent, but the adult child looking after aged parent. Um, Young man spies young woman walking along, says, "Would you marry me?" And he says, uh, I'll make you as rich as any lady gay and as or something like that. It's I'll give you golden riches if you marry me, sort of thing." And she says, basically no, because partly because she's looking after her old blind father,
yes, I know which one you mean. Yeah,
but also because her mother's dead, and her mother taught her to marry for love and not for gold.
yeah,
It's a
that's it.
crucial line in that one. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah, it's I mean that is in and two of them are actually that says the same towards the end of version C. And what about version A? Let's have a look. Because as I say, it is a while since I
Oh yeah,
last
version
approached
C,
this.
penultimate verse. Now all
Yeah,
you
that's the
ladies
one.
of high degree and maids that married yet would be, marry no man for goods or lands, unless you love him faithfully. For I had a love of my own, she said, at Strawberry Castle there lived he. I'll change his name from Tommy of the Pots, and the young Earl of Arundel now he shall be.
Yeah, so that was where I was ending.
Yeah, yeah.
Hence
Oh,
why,
yeah,
and all the ladies of high degree marry for love, not money or pride. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I
And
ended up
I've just seen the
having to,
version B ends with that as well. But
yeah.
all the ladies of Scotland fair and lasses of England that well would prove, neither marry for gold or goods, nor marry for nothing but love. For I had a lover of my own, a serving man of low degree. Now from Tom Potts I'll change his name, for the young Arundel he shall be. And then version A, we're going backwards here. Um, let's see what it says version in the version A. Now all my maids, the lady said, and ladies of England fair and free, look you never change your old for no new, for never change for no poverty. Is that probably poverty, I think. For I had a love true. Love. I'm just miss understanding that you is a V in the
Yeah.
in child. Now all my maids, the ladies said, and ladies of England fair and free, look you never change your old love for no new, for never change for no poverty. For I had a lover true of mine own, a serving man of a small degree. From Thomas a Pot I'll turn his name, and the Lord of Arundel he shall be. So they all end with the same, effectively
Yeah.
the same two verses.
Yeah, so obviously that was where it was going to end.
Yeah,
But yeah, there was a lot of yes, toing and froing, which these songs often have. And we need it. Obviously the way it was Carl commissioned me to do it was to make it so that in the true how Sing Yonder works, anybody can pick up the books and sing the songs. Now, if you've got 104 verses of a lot of toing and froing, it is not, it's so daunting.
it's a daunting task.
And not everybody, even those of us who sing more regularly, do those ballads particularly frequently. because there's only a certain audience type that you can sing them to. You can't generally go into a pub sing around and take a 10, 12-minute ballad.
Well, you can, and I have, but
Well, yeah, depends on the pub,
it's
probably.
not made me particularly popular with certain people.
Yes.
I have annoyed a few people occasionally with this, and I'm mildly pleased about that. You know,
No, well, in my local pub, there aren't with the time you've been round a couple of times, if somebody's taken 12 minutes, that's like two people's slots. So,
yeah,
you're not going to get as many opportunities to sing them. So shortening
indeed.
them does make it more probable that they're going to be sung. So I have sung in pubs the short version that I created. The tune, I obviously there was nothing to be inspired by. Whereas in some of the other songs we've covered, we have a tune that we can work from in order
Yes,
to
of course.
create a tune. This obviously had absolutely nothing. So it really was create something from scratch. I did consider whether I could put something from, another folk tune within it. And sometimes it's just easier to let your brain just make one up.
Yeah, sure.
Because the time you get them to scan, and if you're going to make a version so different to the original anyway, we may as well accept that the tune's going to be different as well. You're going to come up with something entirely new and create a new song from it. So that's exactly what happened. And this one I did release. I mean, this one was released on the EP, and so it is out there, and the information's on mainly Norfolk and whatever.
Yeah.
But I am a step nearer to, because we've been covering quite a few of these songs recently. So I finally got around to remastering some of my versions that I've been doing recently. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to get those as well, because not everybody
Excellent.
reads music. And it would be really nice if people could actually have access to these songs if they want to sing along or just listen. So I've been promising it for about a year that I would get all
Yeah.
these other versions that I haven't yet released. So that's next upon the cards in the next week or two.
There we go. And yeah, so that's it. So we're kind of drawing this to a close. In effect, there are no, as we said, no tunes in Bronson, not even mentioned in Bronson, and never found in the oral tradition, as far as we know. So you made up your own tune, and yeah, so that's all there is to say really. But it's on your EP, "Awakening the Lady," which is on Bandcamp, and this and last week's song, "Willia Douglas Dale," are both on it, and the other three songs will be songs that we will be covering in about a year and a half's time, and so you are already booked in to be the guest for those three
Yes,
songs. If anyone's looking
yes, because
ahead,
that's
if
that's
anyone's
a
looking,
lovely thing, isn't it? It's a law of unintended consequences, isn't it? That you start a project and then you realize that, oh, there's only one person that's done this.
yeah, I mean, you're the only person that's ever done a setting of. Was it so Roud 10? So we've done 65 and 66 now, and
Yeah.
so in the final season of 2027, so next year, year and a bit's time, we'll be doing Roud 105, Child 252, which is I've written down Earl Richard's daughter, but it's the Kitschy boy.
Yeah.
That's that one. And then at the end of that season, penultimate episode of that season, Roud 109, Child 260, is Lord Thomas and Lady Margaret. And then in the first season of 2028, if we're spared to live that long, episode 3 will be Roud 113, Child 271, The Lord of Lorne, or The Lord of Lorne and the False Steward. And so
Oh, are you in for a treat with that one?
at the end of 2027, beginning of 2028, we will be covering the other three songs from
Yeah.
your 5-track EP. So
Yes.
by the end of season 12, we will have covered your entire EP, but by the virtue that you're the only person that's ever done them, and that therefore, and they're coming up quite soon. So
Yes. Well, there's going to be another 5-track, I say, out in a couple of weeks, but that's going to be covering not these two songs that we've done the last 2 weeks, but we'll have things like Hind Etin or Young Aiken, Kempy
ah,
K.
We've done those already, yeah.
Yeah, all those that we've already covered.
Yeah.
The only one that we've covered that will not be in any of these is Lord Delamere. Did we
And
cover Lord?
that's coming up. You're booked in for that one in season 9 as well.
Yes.
That's
Well,
Round 88.
that's being saved for an album I'm working on,
Yeah.
of songs around Lincolnshire, because that does mention
Yeah,
Lincolnshire.
yeah, sure.
So that is not going to be on the EP, because that's coming in, and I've got two albums in process as well. But you know how it is. You end up with that many projects that you want to do that prioritizing them is sometimes difficult.
Of course, of course.
And so it's only the fact that this EP has leapt to the fore simply by virtue of we happen to be doing it. We happen to be doing all these tracks now.
Yeah.
So it seems sensible to get that out there. And then I will probably spend the winter months sorting out the rest of the stuff for release next year. But yeah, you've just got to put it together and hope people like them. And I mean, they are all unaccompanied.
Indeed, yeah.
But I think I quite like that little niche of unaccompanied singing.
That's
It
good.
Some people find it daunting, but I've grown to really like doing it. So
There we go.
I should stick with it because that's what I do.
Indeed. But we'll leave things there, and
Yeah,
then we'll see you. We'll definitely see you in a couple of seasons' time. For for Lord Delamere, but there might
yeah,
be something next season we haven't looked at yet. And
yes.
I'm having trouble finding someone for another rare child ballad next season, so we'll come to that then. But until then, Helen Lindley, thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Matt.
In Scotland there are ladies fair, those of honour and high degree. But one excels above all the rest, all of Arundel's only child is she. Knights and lords courted Lady Anne, but none she liked enough to wed. Then came the day she had to choose. You should choose Lord Fenwick's, Earl Arundel said. Poor Anne had tears coming from her eyes. You are my father who dear loves me. But I love a serving man so poor, and all he has is but £3. Her father was angry, to Fenwick's he rode, and Anne called up her servant boy. To Strawberry Castle, please will you ride, where my Tom Potts is in employ. Take this letter thus writ in my hand, and watch when Tom it looks upon. And if he laughs or if he smiles, I must seek a new love, and Tom will be gone. But if he has tears within his eyes, to Tom I'll be true for all my life. But tell him that in 14 nights I must be Lord William Fenwick's wife. So Jack rode off to see Tom Potts, saying, read this letter from your love, Anne. The tears ran from poor Tom Potts' eyes. He said Fenwick's must win her by his own hand. On Guildford Green I will him meet, and stay the wedding or lose my life. Young Jack rode back to his mistress Anne, saying Tom Potts wanted her for his wife. Tom Potts went to his master's door, saying, I have a lady true to me, and unto her I'll ne'er be false, but I must lose my love to poverty. Lord Fenwick's will have her as his wife. Now hold your tongue, his master cried. There's something I will do for thee. Give Strawberry Castle for you and your bride. I've horses, spears, and armour too. I'll ride as your man at your rear. Oh, thank you, sir, for your kindness, but I'll just take a nag and a single spear. Tom early rode out to Guildford Green, told Fenwick's you're taking my true love from me. Lord Fenwick's was angry, said heaven forbid, a serving man won't take my lady. Early next morning both Fenwick's and Potts met at Guildford Green full eagerly. Fenwick spit parts right through his thigh, but Tom soon sprang up with energy. Tom spit Fenwick straight through the arm, saying, "Fight or yield the lady to me. I can't hold my spear, so the lady I'll yield. I won't keep the serving man from his lady. To save my honour, let Lady Anne choose, will stand at each end of 2 Mile Lane, and set the lady in our midst. If she chooses you, the lady you'll gain." The lady and maids walked 2 Mile Lane, and said, "Tommy Potts, I'll now be your bride. And to all you ladies of high degree, marry for love, not money or pride."
That was Helen Lindley singing Tom Potts. And that brings us to the end of this episode. What did you think? What are your thoughts on this song? Do you have any alternate theories as to why this song may have never sort of turned up anywhere else in oral tradition, maybe apart from the sheer length of it, as we said? If you'd like to get in touch, feel free to drop me an email at intheroud@singyonder.co.uk, or visit the podcast on various social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/intheroudpod. Our Instagram handle is at intheroudpod, and our Blue Sky handle is at intheroud. If you're enjoying this podcast, I would really appreciate it if you would give us a little rating, review, and subscribe on wherever you get your podcasts from. That really helps all these us little independent podcasters to spread our wings and reach a wider audience. Thank you. Over on our Patreon, the Collector Spotlight episode on Cecil Sharp did not happen due to very irritating technical difficulties. But this week we have the second episode in our current Singer's Choice mini-season. Emily Portman is the singer guest again, and along with Brian Peters, we will be discussing Roud 231, Short Jacket and White Trousers. If what you like in folk songs is women dressing up as men, then this is the song for you. If you feel so moved to support the podcast financially, then please do head over to patreon.com/intheroud, and you can sign up for either £5 or £10 per month and receive regular bonus content, as well as the entire back catalogue of bonus episodes. That's patreon.com/intheroud. In the Roud is a media partner of Veteran, the traditional music label. Although this week's song does not currently feature on any of their releases, you can find details of their extensive catalogue on their website, veteran.co.uk. That's veteran.co.uk. One last huge thanks to this week's guest, Helen Lindley. And join me next week for episode 7. We'll be looking at Roud 67, which is Child Ballad 110. That's a song called The Knight and the Shepherd's Daughter, sometimes called the Forester or the Royal Forester, and the version we'll be hearing at the end of that episode is called Sweet William. My history guest will be David Atkinson, and my singer guest will be Nick Hart. Until then, that's it from me. Stay safe, be well, and I'll see you next time in the Roud.